My name's Alex and I live in the UK. I'm a British citizen, but I'm very, very interested in the presidential election in the United States of America, which is happening today. And I'm particularly interested in sort of spiritual energies and what is happening in the unseen, um, and why we've got to the place where we've got to today. Um, you know, why is Donald Trump the Republican candidate, and why is Kamala Harris the Democrat candidate? What's got us to this point? So I want to talk about not so much about policies or personalities or political parties or left wing, right wing, liberal, conservative. Not so interested in that, but I am interested in the energies that are sort of behind this, the sort of the planetary energies, I don't know, the kind of the energies of all different countries in the world and what's been happening in the world in terms of the pandemic and perhaps current wars, such as especially the war in Ukraine, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and of course NATO's involvement as well. So I'm interested in sort of geopolitical politics and the sort of more strategic sort of overall sort of world themes, and I just feel a bit of sort of sadness, I sort of say that. And I'm also interested in karma, the karma of countries, the karma of the world, perhaps the karma around of politics and politicians and history and the history of the United States, and in particular the history of sort of slavery and all of that. The fact that the Democrat candidate is a person of color and also a woman is extremely significant, I think, from a sort of energetic and karmic point of view. How have we got here? And this is kind of like a tremendous achievement in a way, even to have Kamala Harris as the Democrat candidate, a woman of color. I think that's fantastic. The United States has got to that place where they can put a person like that up as candidate for the president of the United States. That's it's an achievement in itself, whether or not she wins the presidential election. So I mean, I see it as the United States of America making peace with its past, or confronting its karma around slavery, really, going back a century or two. So I think something is being healed, resolved, put right, even in this process. I just feel a bit emotional as I say that. So there's something like that going on, that America's sort of heritage, history, it's sort of coming full circle in a way, that a couple of hundred years ago, black people in America generally were at the bottom of sort of the power pyramid or whatever. They had least power, most oppressed, and now there's a possibility that a person of color is going to be the most powerful person, not only in the United States of America, but in the world, effectively, in terms of sort of economic and military power. So that feels very significant, actually, the sort of around power. And of course, Donald Trump has got his own take on power. He's sort of very egotistical person, very sort of power hungry, and wants to win at all costs. So that's another sort of angle on power, political power, or a sort of I don't know, the energy of kings or dictators or, sort of leaders more on the sort of ruthless, autocratic side. Yeah, I think it's just fascinating, really, the energies that are around at the moment. So, I mean, I think, any election day is very significant for the country involved. But today's election feels, even more significant than most other United States presidential elections that I can remember. I mean, I think all politicians say that, this is the most important election that's ever happened. They always say that at every election. So I sort of discount that. I can see why they say that, because it's the most important to them. But and they're trying to sort of, I don't know. I mean, no politician standing for office is going to say this is the least important election. No, this doesn't matter, because effectively they'll be saying I don't matter. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in that as well. And also I am very interested in planetary energies and spiritual energies, and I believe that planet Earth is going through a transition, or has gone through a transition from the 3D to the 5D. But this is the whole process of that transition is going to take decades or maybe even centuries. So I think 2012 was like the sort of tipping point, the sort of pivotal point. But the outworking of that, the ascension process that people are talking about, is very much ongoing and will be ongoing for decades and centuries, I expect. And there's amazing things happening on the planet, amazing changes that people don't necessarily take full note of or take for granted. The whole AI, artificial intelligence sort of developments. I think they're extremely significant in a decade or two, or we could see human beings as part human, part machine, with sort of implants and chips and stuff in their heads or in their bodies, and connected to computers, or all that is like a sort of realistic possibility, that we're heading towards a place where human beings are actually quite heavily engineered, or yeah, and the kind of the boundary between human intelligence and artificial intelligence, and how that's going to sort of play together. And yeah, it's all kind of fascinating. All that's happening at this time, and then also the new sort of ventures into space, and more trips to the moon and possible trips to Mars, and development of space technology, and lots of countries sort of joining in and having a go. And I think that's pretty significant as well. Yeah, and the pandemic, I'm still trying to sort of make sense of what that was all about, because I think there is more to it than kind of meets the eye, and yeah, why did that happen when it did, in the way it did, and the effect that's had on the population and on people's attitudes, and medicine and vaccines and all that. I think that's highly, highly significant. Yeah, so I think there's a lot going on in the unseen, in the sort of the spiritual realms, in the dimensions, if you like, of what the standard 5 human senses can't perceive, can't detect. What's beyond our ability to sense in a sort of in a kind of physical way. Because I do think that there's a lot more going on around us, around each human being, than our physical senses can actually perceive. We see the world as we're able to with our senses, with our physical senses, but there may be a lot more to the world or to what's around us than we were aware of. To give it an analogy with our vision, we've got a sort of limited range of frequency that we can see as light, but we do know that the electromagnetic spectrum extends, well beyond those limits, both in terms of higher frequencies and lower frequencies. So, we can't perceive infrared or ultraviolet or radio waves or gamma rays, or but they are around. They're around us, and scientific instruments can measure them. That's an example of how there's more to the world than meets the eye, quite literally. So yeah, I'm very interested in those sort of higher dimensions, higher frequencies, those other realms, and even, I'm quite interested in energies that might not come from planet Earth, or might be of a sort of non-human sort of origin. So I do believe in the concept of sort of alien life or alien energies or alien entities or presences or effects, from elsewhere in the solar system, elsewhere in the galaxy, elsewhere in the universe. Also how the past and the future might actually be affecting the present. We as human beings see time as a sort of linear thing, past, present, future, in that order, in that sequence. And as human beings, a lot of people say that all we have is the present, all we can experience is the present. I don't necessarily believe that. I think the past, present, and future are all linked and interwoven, and equally important. So in some senses, the present is all we have, in that it's our point of action, point of agency. But the past has made us who we are. The past has made the planet what it is, and the future is where we'll spend the rest of our lives. The future is how the planet, the stars, the universe will develop, and I think all that is significant. So I do see the past, the present, and the future as all of equal importance, and not to be sort of dismissed or disregarded. That doesn't matter because we've got no control over it. I don't buy that sort of argument at all. That just brings a little bit of emotion as I say that. And I am interested also in the kind of the nature of the soul, the human soul, and I also believe that other living beings have souls, and that planets and stars and moons have a soul of a kind, perhaps a very different kind to the human soul, but a sort of an energy, an existence, a meaning, a purpose, a reason, a vibration. So I'm interested in the soul of planet Earth, the soul of Gaia, and and I'm kind of fascinated by all of this. I think there's a lot more to the universe and to existence than we commonly sort of talk about or think about or see. Beyond the sort of day to day. And I think an election day kind of highlights that, because it is a special day. I mean, in my perception, election days is the day when the people have the power. The politicians on that day don't have the power. It's up to the people to decide. And maybe it's slightly kind of idealistic or fanciful, but it has got a feeling of that the politicians are very much sort of beholden to the population, the electorate today. And then on other days, it's the politicians that have the power to make decisions and do things and make laws and whatever they do. So I like it. I like it from that in that sense that the people have the power. I mean, I know in reality it's probably not really like that. It's like we're given a choice between two politicians or a few political parties, and they're oftentimes much of a muchness. Which you're voting for, one puppet or the other, or who's really pulling the strings, and but there was a sense of sort of agency of power to the electorate, which I quite like. It's like a sort of breathing space, Where are we going to go from here? We don't know at this point, especially when an election is on a real knife edge like it is this time, with the polls really sort of neck and neck. That makes it quite interesting. It just, it feels like the vote has more significance. An individual vote has more significance when it appears to be on a knife edge like it is today. I feel like I sort of wishing the American people well, wishing the electorate well, the voters well today. It's there's a sort of a momentous sort of feeling, and so I think that's probably all I need to say in this vlog. I think I've made my points, and I'll just sort of continue riding with the energy today of a US presidential election, and I might do some things or rituals or some activities, creative pursuits that will help me mark that, think about that, focus on that. Might spend some time in nature, go for a little walk. The sun is shining outside. Election day in the United States of America in 2024, an auspicious and momentous day. And blessings to all who are watching this, and comments and feedback. Welcome. Bye for now.